classification, I'm not sharing that video with you, but it is a very interesting video to watch, and you'll understand as to how motivated these people are who want to carry out terrorist strikes. Okay. Fatima, you there? Can we have the first video, please?
Yes, sir.
Guru will go to the second slide after the video is played.
Is my screen being presented?
Yeah. Okay, this is actuals, okay? This is not some movie. It is real. This is what happened. It's working, not to worry.
So shall I stop presenting?
Yeah. Yeah, you just saw the video. I'm sure, more than 80% of you wouldn't have understood what exactly happened. This is one of the operations which was being conducted, and the presence of terrorists was confirmed in the said house. Explosives were set up, and the house was brought down. This is one of the ways in which these terrorists are hit. Now, that'd be a very pertinent question. So, why should you bring a house down? I mean, there are 2, 3, 4, how many ever terrorists inside? Why can't you just hit them? It's because we don't want collaterals. We don't want to take casualty. You know, we've tried, we've done everything. We've been engaged with them from morning. We've been sitting there for about say 72 to 96 hours. Things don't work, and the best way is to bring down the complete house. Okay. So now what happens? What happens when you bring down a complete house? In the yesteryears, what used to happen is when terrorists used to be given, shelter in the houses, they used to be given food, they used to be given water, they used to be allowed to sleep in a particular house, and no information used to come through. Now, what information and what intelligence is required, I should be covering in the rest of my presentation. So, finally, what happened is we got to go when we were given the powers to bring down a complete house. In the yesteryears, what used to happen when we used to bring down the house, we used to pay them money, because of having brought the house down. This used to be paid by the government to the tune of about say 35 to 40 lakhs. The government finally took a decision and said, here, look, he's giving shelter to a terrorist, which he's not supposed to be doing. So why do we have to pay? The moment this paying money was stopped, they stopped giving shelter to terrorists. This was one of the ways in which the terrorists were told, this is not a place where you belong to. Okay. Now, that was just to tell you, in reality, how it is. It is not the way you watch Bollywood movies, where one grenade explodes and 4 buses go up in air. It doesn't happen that way. The next slide I have written, since Wing Commander Nitin very clearly brought out, please know what the army is all about. It's not what you see in movies. The army has a very different shape to itself. And when I say the army, I'm talking about all the armed forces, the army, navy, and the air force. So I've listed out some of the myths which people have about the army. The first and the most beautiful myth which does the rounds is everything in the army is free. Let me tell you, and I'm clarifying it to the entire audience, there's nothing in the army which comes free. Be it an officer, be it a junior commissioned officer, be it person below the officer's rank, everybody pays for everything to the extent that even the food which people eat is paid for. There is nothing free in the army, firstly. Secondly, liquor is freely available. This is one myth. The second myth is everybody in the army consumes liquor. Okay? I understand that A lot of people here, understand Tamil. Okay. Army le irukravanga kudikara. Sorry. It doesn't work that way. Okay. Especially the youngsters who are joining the army today, they are teetotalers. So this is, yeah, Nitin, please go on.
Wing Commander Ravindranath Nair, who is a commando himself, like Bharat sir, is a pure vegetarian, non-alcoholic. He is more of a pandit than me only. You may please go on, sir. Just to put things in place. He's my batchmate. He's a commando, he's a vegetarian and a teetotaler.
Yeah, as I said, Ravi and I we've trained together. Okay, so minus the vegetarian part, we have similarities. I don't drink either. No tea, no coffee, no smoke. Liquor is a complete no-no. But yes, when it comes to vegetarian, non-vegetarian, I eat anything which moves and doesn't bite back. So, and the third myth is that people in the army always party. No, it's not always party. Okay. Every day, every moment, from the time we adorn this uniform and we are in the field, we live every second because we don't know what's going to happen next. So when we have conducted an operation which runs into 72 hours, 96 hours, sometimes 7 to 10 days sitting in the same place, and we come back, it calls for a celebration because we have done a job well. Let me put it in a different perspective to you all, since you understand what it is. I'm sure you all watch India-Pakistan cricket matches. How do you rejoice when India wins every time over Pakistan in a cricket match? It's jubilation, right? It's celebration to all of you. It's a celebration to us also. Okay? But we don't have 50 overs to play. We don't have 300 balls to face. Okay? We every day get one chance. Either we win or we martyr. So that is where the party culture comes from. It is a celebration again. The army has a very high-headed attitude. It is not a high-headed attitude. When you get 300 balls to score a century and you rejoice so much about it, we wear the flag, we wear the tricolor every day on our heads. So we have that pride that we fight for the country, we fight for those citizens who are worth fighting for. There is a difference between high-headedness and pride. And every soldier needs to have that pride. Otherwise, you can't fight a war. Oh, the most important myth, and especially so in the south, you will surely take a bullet. How can I send him to the army? Oh, if I send him to the army, he'll get hit. What will I do? I don't have any other children. This is a big myth because of which people don't let the children join the armed forces. Okay, it's a myth. You're very protected in the army. Okay, you'll understand. As a normal civilian, people can enter your house, but civilians are not allowed to enter the camps. That is security. Okay, that happens, especially so in the field. You're guarded. Okay, and armed forces is the only place where the people who you command will take a bullet for you. There's no other place in the world where people will do it. This was my myth too before I joined the army. You don't need to study in the army. This is one of the biggest mistakes which I did in my life. I thought, okay, let's join army, then you don't have to study anymore. Oh, sorry. From the day we joined the army to this date, you have to study. You have to keep abreast. You study tactics, you study strategy, you study weapons. I was one guy who could not reach out to Max at all. But I had to do it. So if you're joining the army because you don't have to study, then you're making a big mistake. The civil world is the right place to be in. Okay. Life is luxurious in the army. Oh, definitely not. I keep telling to all my cadets, if you want to drive around in a BMW, Merc, Audi, Jaguar, army is not the place for you. Yes, but army makes you very, very, very comfortable. Army gives you very, very high standard of living. But Luxury is not the word. Okay. Buddies are treated like servants. Okay. Now, I use the term buddies very carefully because otherwise, in the civil world, they say sahayaks. He's not a sahayak, he's a buddy. When he's a buddy, he goes with me into battle. Now, when he goes with me into battle, he is the guy who knows everything about me. He knows my ATM number. Okay, he knows my card number. He knows my account details. He knows my Gmail passwords. He knows me completely. And he knows me completely because in war, I might not have time to ask for something. I might not be in a position to ask for something. So my mere look at him dictates what I want. Okay? And remember, he alone is not my buddy. I'm his buddy too. He watches my back, I watch his. That's how it works in the army. Can I have the next slide, please? Now, what is the task of the Indian Army? The task of the Indian Army is to ensure national security and national unity. Okay? And it is to defend the nation from external aggression and internal threats. Why am I bringing this point out? Because insurgency or terrorism is not a job of the armed forces. It has been given to the armed forces for the reasons which will be explained later in the course of the presentation. Okay, so what is our major role? It is to ensure territorial integrity. It is to guard our nation from external and internal threats. Now, when we say internal threats, yes, insurgency forms a part of it. Okay. Next slide, please. Yeah, now this is a very, very important slide because there's a big misconception about this. What are the armed forces? If you speak about the armed forces, there are only three in number: the Indian Army, the Indian Navy, and the Indian Air Force. Okay, and why is it so important? Why am I stressing so much on this? I'm stressing so much on this because we are the insurance policy of the government. Okay, we are the last line of defense. We will be committed, and so we got to be at our best. Only the elite will make it to the Indian Armed Forces. Let me put it that way. Now, are CAPFs under this head? Are they armed forces? No, sir. I'm sorry, they are not. They are Central Armed Police Force, which means CRPF, CISF, ITBP, and BSF. They are police forces. They are not armed forces. So now, why is this point even coming up? This point is coming up because everybody wants to associate themselves with the Indian Armed Forces. When you see attacks happened in Pulwama, the headlines read attacks happened on armed forces. No, it didn't happen on the Army, Navy, or Air Force. It happened to a police force. There is a difference. Now, what differentiates armed forces from the CAPF? And why has the Army been inducted for counter-terrorist operations? That is why this precedence, this prelude comes from. Can I have the next slide, please? Now, if you have to join the armed forces, you have to go through SSB. That's your first step. That's what we all try to emphasize upon you when you are in the NCC, because you have a C certificate entry. Okay, it is the most proven scientific process, and it has been time tested for years. How do you say, sir, that it has been time tested? Because we won 4 wars for the country already. And every day we are winning a war. Counterinsurgency, conflict operations, they are war on a smaller scale. And it is a war because the enemy cannot afford a full-scale war. It has already suffered 4 losses. So as Wing Commander Nitin brought out yesterday very categorically, low-intensity conflict has been adopted by Pakistan so that they can bleed India through 1,000 cuts. That is where the counter-terrorist, counter-insurgency operations comes into play. Now, what happens in the SSB? Why is the SSB needed? Why is it a scientific process? Because you need a different kind of a psyche to join in the armed forces and sustain the training and sustain the next 35 years in the army, navy or air force. And Ravi is going to have a hearty laugh. To join the commandos and be in Garuds or be in national security guards or be in Marcos, you need a different psyche altogether. That's why they call us psychos. They literally refer to us as psychos. Okay, so if you have to join the armed forces, you need a different psyche. Okay, and now I'm coming back only to the army. The NDA, OTA, IMA, they are the alma mater where you're trained for any contingency, be it war or be it counter-terrorist operations. These are the three institutions in the army which train you to face inadequacies. Okay, and the same is there in the naval academies and in the Air Force academies. What happens in these academies? It is physical, mental, psychological conditioning. More than physical, it is mental conditioning. Okay, and when you train together in the academies, you become brethren for life. You have a very big family, which is that of your course mates, your batch mates, and of course the unit where you're going to join. In the academies, you train, you toil, you sweat blood together. And this quality is unique and specific to the armed forces. That is why when Wing Commander Nitin gives, Wing Co Ravi a call, he's there to attend a presentation. If Nitin tells Ravi, or if I call up Ravi and I say, "Yaar, there's a presentation, can you, take a session for 6 hours?" He won't blink. He will say, "Absolutely, done." He'll say, "You don't even have to ask me about it." This comes because you sweat together. I'm not saying that you don't sweat in the IAS and IPS academies together, but it is yet to be proven that they can handle a situation without giving it to us. So that's where this thought comes from. Can I have the next slide, please? Now, what happens in the academy? For all those who think, army is a very good life, it's a lot of party, it's a lot of liquor. I'll tell you what happens in the academy. It's early morning, first period drill. Okay. And before that, you've just slept for about an hour, if you're lucky. Okay. So you have PT, then you have drill, where the drill ustads, they're going to suck your blood out on the drill parade grounds. Okay. Then you have classes. And what do these classes include? Tactical training, weapons training, obstacle training, and in weapons training, it is all in Hindi. Okay. So people from the south, watch out. Nothing is going to enter the head. It's going to go above. Okay, it happened with me. I am from Chennai. Okay, we speak Hindi at home, but yet I couldn't understand a word of what the Ustad was trying to convey. Okay, so we have obstacle training, we have unarmed combat. That bit you will remember for the rest of your life. We have firing, not the ones which happen in NCC. In NCC, firing is in a very controlled, nice, comfortable environment. It doesn't happen that way in the academy. Okay. We have assault courses, we have race backs. Now, I put a question mark there because I'm sure you don't understand what a race back is. Okay. If somebody knows what a race back is, I'll wait for you to answer. And if you still don't know what a race back is, you can ask me, I will tell you at the end of the session. Okay. We have swimming. Oh, don't say, swimming is very good. No, it isn't. For a person who doesn't know swimming, swimming is worse than hell in the academy. Okay. We are not taught in the earnest manner. There is no time to teach about 150 cadets swimming. You'll get 2 days to learn swimming. You'll get about 4 classes of practice, and then you are required to swim 50 meters if you have to graduate and become an officer. And apart from that, although you don't know swimming at all, you're expected to do a 5 meter, 10 meter jump. Okay, so you can understand how it is. Games, sand model discussions, assessment exercises, which are on a continuum in the academy. Then you have briefings, you have evaluations, and amongst all this, you're not allowed to sleep. If you get to sleep in the academy for about, say, 2 to 3 hours, you're really, really, really very lucky, and your seniors and your instructors are very good people. Okay? And then there is a merit list which is drawn. If there is a 300 course, somebody is on merit list 1, somebody is on merit list 300. Okay? So the first 1% and the last 1% gets the unit which they want to go to. What happens to the others? They give. Okay? So when they give, I want to have a very cushy life in some of the course where I think the job is very little. Okay, I opt for it, but then I land up in infantry. And the moment you land up in infantry, you're tired. Okay, so that's how it works, right? So the battalion is assigned, and after the battalion is assigned, if you cleared all your tests, if you come up to those standards, then you finally have your passing out parade. And the moment you pass out, you get stars on your shoulders, the first thing which comes to your mind is, मैं तो officer बन गया. Now I am an officer. Okay. Oh really? You really think you're an officer? No, you're not. You're commissioned. You go to your assigned battalion, and there your learning starts all over again. And I'll tell you why the rigmarole. Why so much into detail? Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah. You're about 22, 23 years of age, and we generally start telling our parents, we are about 15, 16, stop treating me like a kid. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm grown up. I'm 15 years of age. And when you land up in the battalion, you're 22, 23, and you're called the baby of the battalion. You don't know anything. And you're going to be taught what the battalion is all about. Every battalion, be it in the army, be it in the navy, be it in the air force, they've got history, they've got values, customs, traditions, ethics, standards, ethos. They have great pride in what they all wear. When you go into the air force, I just love the way they wear, the patches with pride. I don't know how you're feeling, but even when I'm saying it, I have goosebumps. When I look at naval officers, they are smartly turned out white uniforms. Their rigs, when they get into the ships, when they get into the destroyers, when they get into frigates, when they get into the submarines, when they get into minesweepers, it is stuff which you can just imagine and watch in movies, and movies show you not even 1% of what is the truth. Okay? And when you go to the battalion, the commanding officer of the battalion asks you, yeah, son, what are you going to bring to the party? Because yesterday when one of the cadets was presenting, I was very happy to note that they presented the decorations which were given to Sikhalai. They had 2 Paramveer Chakras, a couple of Mahavir Chakras, Veer Chakras, Shaurya Chakras. So when you go there, how do you look at them? Leave alone the commanding officer, your Subedar Major, who is a junior commissioned officer, but who's put in about 30 years of service, is going to look at you and say, "Ha, sir, kya karne wale ho? What are you going to bring to the battalion?" That is the pride which they carry. So when you go there, you realize that you are a zero. You have to start. You have to make a beginning. Okay. When you go to the battalion, you have to earn the respect of your troops. You have to earn the respect of the troops you command. It doesn't come. He may salute you because you're wearing ranks. He will salute you. Okay? But after some time, if you don't earn the respect, when he sees you from a distance, he'll just turn. Or when he salutes you, he'll be like, Ram Ram Sir. And inside he's saying something. But when you earn your respect, that salute comes from within. And there is a meaning of salute. When the person salutes, when a person who's junior to you salutes, he tells you, I am with you. When you salute back, you're telling him, yes, I stand by you. Okay? So you have to earn that kind of a respect. It doesn't come because you will be leading the finest men into battle. And what do you mean by leading them into battle? When there is an adversity he is going to throw himself in front of you to take a bullet which is racing towards you. To do that, you have to earn respect. Otherwise, you will buy casualties in war. Okay. Then you get a chance to be with the unit commando team, which is called a Ghatak. And the army gives you the opportunity to go into various operations. I've just named a few. Operation Vijay was one which happened when Kargil happened. It is named Operation Vijay. Okay. Our battalion was in the Western Front, and we were to be launched into Pakistan. And then the army again gave us opportunities to operate with the Marine Commandos, the Marcos, where we trained alongside for amphibious landings. And then we mobilized for counter-insurgency, counter-terrorist operations. Okay, yesterday we saw the difference between insurgency and terrorists, so I'm not going to explain more about it. But I'm going to definitely tell you what is the difference between line of control and international boundary, because there's always this confusion which the media brings in, because they say line of control, they say line of actual control, then they say international boundary, then they use some other term. There are only two terms. One is the line of control, one is the international boundary. Now, what is the difference? The international boundary is clearly demarcated. You have pillar stones. It is called a zero stone. On the other side, it is written Pakistan, and on the same stone on this side, it is written India. So it is a clearly demarcated line, which is the international boundary. However, the line of control is clearly demarcated by two warring factions. When I say two warring factions, it's India and Pakistan, India and China. Okay, but it is along natural boundaries, as in a river flowing, heights, and so the line of control can change. How can it change? If the enemy is holding a higher position and he's dominating me from there, and I'm not able to do my activities, okay, it is ahead. It is about, say, 50 meters, not even 50 meters. 50 meters is too much. 10 meters ahead, I go and I capture it. The line of control changes. Okay, so all the natural features on the line of control are closely guarded. Okay. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah. So now I'm bringing you gradually to terrorism and the counter-terrorist operations. Now, why did I have to tell you all of this Ram Kahani before I came to this slide? Is because it makes you understand as to what life in the Army, Navy, Air Force is all about. When we get inducted into an area and when we know that we are going to counter-terrorist operations, we train at places which are called core battle schools. Although we've been trained in the academy, although we've been trained in the unit, the core battle school gives you a clear perspective of what that particular area is about. For example, if I'm going into a core battle school which is going to induct me into operations into Jammu and Kashmir, the core battle school has the same kind of a scenario which we are going to face in J&K. And today I spoke to you about the LC. There's something called the LC fence, which is also a counter-terrorist operation. About a few kilometers behind the LC, India constructed a fence all along the line of control, and troops are deployed on it to stop infiltrators from getting into the country. So that has to be guarded 24/7 into 365. How do you guard it? It is a long structure. Okay. A terrorist who is trying to infiltrate into a country finds out ways and means to go through the fence. Yesterday, one of the cadets was presenting, and he had a beautiful slide where he shows chess. You know, it's a game of chess. If we are able to pick up the terrorist, if we are able to pick up his movement, if we are able to collect int, I told you about int gathering, intelligence collection, and we are able to decipher his route of ingress, then we are going to hit him. If we are not able to decipher his route of coming inside, then he is going to come inside and do something in the hinterland. So there's going to be some force which is sitting behind, which is going to come and vanquish him. And after vanquishing him, they're going to ask, how did you let them come inside? You know, and then next start rolling. So you have to be abreast, and you have to be one step or two steps ahead of the way they're thinking. intelligence collection. Now, this is a challenge. When I go to a new place, I don't know who's going to give me in, who's going to tell me anything about terrorist movement, because movement is there. I know that movement is there. I know the terrorists are going to come to a particular place, but I don't know when they're going to come. I don't know who's going to come. I don't know how many numbers they're going to come in. I don't know what weapons they're going to have. I don't know what their intent is. So how do I collect int? This is a challenge. I'm sure you all heard about the famous 2611 operations, and there was so much flowing around as to how the intelligence agencies could not have deciphered when they were coming through uh, uh, such large number. 10 is a large number, okay? But what one did not realize is the number of int reports which come in every day, okay? The Navy has to patrol so many hundreds of miles, and one small little boat coming in, there was so much which was being questioned. So that is the challenge of int collection. I'm not going to dwell into the details of whether there was int about their coming, there wasn't int about their coming. Was it seen? Was it overlooked? But when you go to the field and you have to collect intelligence, you have to use your ingenuity to collect that kind of an intelligence. Yes, Nitin, you can go on.
Check 1 2 1. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah.
Sir, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can.
I once again urge all the cadets to please put on their videos. Please understand, this is basic decency. If a person who's way too senior to me is speaking, it does not look good when all of you are turning off your videos. Please put off your mic, but turn on your videos for heaven's sake. Only put it off if your network is pathetic and you're not able to hear him. I urge all cadets to please put on their mics. Sir, can you give a small example? What you said about, now reverting back to you, sir, you were talking about intelligence about 10 people coming in a boat. If you can just take 1 more minute to elaborate it, so that they can just kind of understand that it is sea. So how many boats are generally there, and in that they're supposed to find out which of those boats are carrying those 10 guys.
Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you, Nitin.
Okay. Just take a second, sir. I want to see the faces. Until faces are there, I'll hold you. These boys, this is not decency. I'm a little cut up. Yesterday it was me, okay, but today I don't like this. Everybody's turning off their video.
No, I think they have a problem with the network or something, because otherwise these cadets, yes, that's why it's going on and coming off. Not an issue. Yeah. So there was they started from a particular place in Karachi, and they sailed. Then they pick up an Indian trawler. They shipped into the Indian trawler, and then they reached the shores of Mumbai. Okay. Now, the Navy, or if the int agencies were warned about it, it's about thousands and thousands of nautical miles which the Navy or the Coast Guard is guarding. Okay, firstly. Secondly, in the pitch dark of the night, you cannot pick up a small little trawler. Okay. Nitin is from the Air Force, and Ravi is from the Air Force. When you have blips on the radar, these boats do not even show any kind of a blip. There is no signature, firstly. Secondly, it is a small trawler and it is an Indian trawler. It is impossible to kind of check each and every boat which is going through. It is impossible. Unless and until you have specific intelligence. For example, if I were to shift to the land from the sea, even though we are guarding, we have all our network in place, After they landed in Mumbai and they went to the 3 target areas, we did not have any kind of intelligence as to where they were, how many they were, how many hostages they were holding, what weapons they were carrying. Okay, so int collection is that difficult. It's not a one-day job. It's not an easy job. Now what happens? How do you need to collect int? We look at int from all sources which is possible. Sometimes the sources are handed over to us. Sometimes the source is cultivated. How do you cultivate a source? Any person who's coming and giving me int about the presence of someone has a background history. Either that person has been affected by these terrorists, a family member has been killed, a family member has been kidnapped, or a person has been coerced into accepting certain things against their wish and will, or there is no money. Money is a big factor, okay? And money is one of the most important factors in int collection. We alone don't go to them. Sometimes they come to us. For example, I'm carrying out a patrolling. It happened in one of our operations that we were carrying patrolling, and there was a lady with a small little child, barely about say 7 or 8 years. This small little girl hardly had they anything to. The child had nothing to wear on, just a wraparound, the top, and just a small little shorts, and they were going away from a place. So it felt really bad. The only thing which we were carrying was the lunch which we had. So I took out the lunch and offered it to the child. Beta khale, have something to eat. Okay. There was no smile, neither on the face of the child, nor from the mother. And the mother just walks away with the child, but she turns back and she tells us only one thing: Saab pani mat pina. 3 words. Saab, 4 words. Saab pani mat pina. Translated for you: don't drink water. Pani pudikadina. That's all they said. It made no sense to us. What does the lady mean by saying don't drink water? Okay. It didn't strike to us also, so we carried on patrolling. We went to a particular designated spot where we were supposed to carry out a search, and we carried out the search, but their intelligence network was much better than us, that all of them had vacated before we could reach the place. It happens most of the times. Now, okay, we didn't find anything, so we have to move to the next place. The boys wanted a break. Okay, have a 5 minutes break before we move on. They break, and the first thing the boy does is he goes to fetch water. You know, there's a hand pump. Most of you must have seen hand pumps. The moment that boy started walking to the hand pump, it struck to us that that lady said, "Don't drink water." You know, so this boy was caught in a hurry, moved away from the hand pump, and that hand pump was checked. Mind you, that hand pump was rigged to an explosive, and there were 100 kgs of explosive which were dumped below the hand pump. So the only thing that guy was required to do is lift it and push it once, and that was it. About 20 of us would have been martyred because it was 100 kgs of explosives. Now, what is this? This is intelligence. She said 4 words: Saab pani mat pina. Okay, we didn't go to her. She came to us, and she came to us because of one small little, I wouldn't even call act. It just happened on humanitarian grounds. Okay, so that's how int is collected. So every day there is a plan as to how you collect intelligence. Okay, WAM. WAM is winning hearts and minds of people. That is how you collect int. That is how you can stop terrorism. Okay. Now, what is WAM? Yesterday, when one of the cadets was presenting, he called Sadbhavana an operation. Okay, Sadbhavana is not an operation. It is WAM. It is winning hearts and minds of people. It is giving them certain basic necessities, you know, so that they have a little requisite standard of living. Now, this reminds me of a movie which was playing in the theaters a few days back. It's a Tamil movie, Karnan, okay, where a lot of things happen because a bus stop is not there in the village. Okay, it goes to the extent of the whole village being annihilated just because of a bus stop. So it is very basic for people like us who are in the cities, but it's a very big thing for the people in the villages. So this Operation Sadbhana was started, where villagers are asked what they want, and it is being done, and it is being sponsored by the government. Okay. So that is winning hearts and minds of people. Okay, patrols. Every day there is a patrol, and one patrol goes to about 20 to 25 kilometers in harsh terrain, and it is a job every day. There's a patrol in the morning, and there are ambushes which are set up at night. All this to strike at terrorists. We know the routes of ingress. So every day for 3 years, there is an army which is waiting to see if there is one chance which they get to strike at the terrorist. Okay, and they are sitting under what circumstances? When they sit in an ambush, we occupy an ambush after last light. That is when it gets dark in the evening, after dusk, and we have to pull out of ambush before first light, before it is morning, before the sun rises. Okay, basically during the dark. So when you go sit in an ambush, we are sitting in an ambush at, say, temperatures which are very comfortable to us at about, say, -10 to -14 degrees centigrade, wind speeds at about 80 to 100 kilometers per hour, when the cold is entering you from all the places. And once you go sit in an ambush, you have to stay in the same position till you get back next morning. You again do it the next evening, you again do it the next evening, you again do it the next evening, and the cycle goes on till the time you pee in them. Okay, and then there are beautiful things which are called the long range patrols.
Sir,
Yeah, Nitin.
one step back, sir. If you can, with any kind of example, just verbally describe what is an ambush, is not to them, or cordon is not known to them. A little bit more on that, sir.
Okay,
And
thanks.
And one more thing, sir. You just said source. You just said intelligence. You need to go one step back, sir, and try and tell. Okay, now one terrorist who is going to cross Pakistan. He will come and stay with somebody. Now, who is the person who's an informant? When you are looking, what kind of information you're looking for? Those very terms are not known, let alone cadets, sir. Even I don't know half of them.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm very thankful to you, Nitin, for having pointed this out to me. Yeah, because one gets carried away,
No, sir.
thinking that everybody is on the same plane.
It is not that. Even I don't know. Ravi and you know, I don't know.
Yeah, okay. So I'm giving the same example that you're quoting. Okay. When a person crosses over the line of control, it's a very difficult operation, and it's even for the terrorists, right? So they do a lot of recce. Recce is reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is, okay, let me put it in the way in which college students understand. When a guy falls for a girl, he generally finds out, what she likes, what she dislikes, what time she's going to come to the bus stop, what kind of a chocolate she likes, whether she likes flowers or not. Okay, he keeps watching her. That's called a reconnaissance. That's called a surveillance. Okay. So, in the same manner, the terrorists keep looking at what is the general nature of duty, the way the line of control is being covered, where are the gaps, when can we go across, okay? And it happens over 2 nights. First night, they come across, then they go and stay at someone's house because they need to eat, they need to freshen up, they need to sleep, okay? And then the second day, they walk into the hinterland. Now, the place where they come and they stay, okay, there are terms which are called the underground workers and overground workers, okay? They come and stay in a place who sympathizes with these terrorists. They can be underground workers, they can be overground workers. Okay, now what is the difference? An underground worker, you will not be able to make out. An overground worker, at some point of time, can come and tell you whether there is a terrorist who's coming or not. So, an overground worker is an example of a source. He is a source of information. He is telling us as to whether there has been an infiltration bid, that is, have they crossed the LC, whether they have come inside, and where they are staying. Now, this is called specific intelligence. We know how many people have come, we know where they have come, and we know how long they may be there. That nobody can dictate to them. Okay. Now, once that information comes to us, that information is referred to as intelligence. Okay. It is called actionable intelligence, as in we can go and act, and we will get the presence of terrorists where it has been told, and when we strike, we will get results, right? That is actionable. Now, the person who's coming and telling us this is called the source. How is he coming and telling us that? Is because we have cultivated him, or he's troubled by them. So somebody will come and tip us off. So that person is called a source. So this is required to be cultivated over a period of time. Now, Nitin just used the word cordon. Okay, cordon is nothing but surrounding the place and holding position in such a manner that these guys who have come in and who are sitting in a house don't get away from them. Okay, so we establish two cordons. On a bigger hole, we establish an outer cordon, and then we have an inner cordon, and then we start tightening the noose. It is basically, if he doesn't fire, he's a very smart terrorist. If he fires, we are the happiest because we know where his position is. Okay, so should you have any doubts about a cordon or about a source or about an intelligence, please note it down, ask me in the question format. I shall answer you. Otherwise, it'll become a monologue. Okay. So, what is an ambush? An ambush is nothing but a surprise attack on an unsuspecting enemy. We all have been kids. Okay. So, we all have this habit of hiding behind a door, and when somebody comes in, we have the habit of scaring them. I'm sure most of us or all of us have done it at some point of time, and we get joy out of it, right? So this is exactly what an ambush is. There is an infiltrator, there is a terrorist who's coming inside. He doesn't know our presence, and when he comes to a particular place, we will just open fire. We don't scare him, we kill him. Okay, that's the only difference. So I hope I have driven across what an ambush is. So this ambush is occupied every night. Okay, we sitting in Coimbatore or sitting in Chennai, or sitting in Bangalore, or sitting in Kerala, during the night go watch a night show. From 9:30 to 12:30, have a popcorn, sip a thumbs up, and come back. Okay, at the same time, there are people who are sitting there with cold entering from all possible holes, all possible directions. Okay, but he just cannot move because he's waiting for the guy to come in so that he can strike. That is an ambush, right? Nitin or Ravi, should there be anything which you want to add, you can always interrupt me and add to. Ravi, do you want to add?
Nothing at all, sir. You could.
Okay. So that is what is an ambush, and ambush is an everyday affair, day in and day out. Patrol is an everyday affair, and then we have these long-range patrols, which goes on for about 50 to 80 kilometers. Okay, 50 to 80 kilometers is just about a distance from here to Tirupur or from here to Erode. Okay, but in a terrain, in jungles, especially in counter-terrorist, counter-insurgency operations, it's a long way from the time you leave your base, from where you're operating, to the time you come back. Okay, so this happens once in a month, once in 2 months, sometimes twice in a month, thrice in a month. This is the normal. It's a normal routine. Okay. Then it is small team operations. Now I have tried ambush. I'm not getting success. I have tried long range patrols. I'm not getting success. My source is not able to help me out because my source is not. I don't have a very good source to give me intelligence. What do I do? I start operating in small teams. I, take 4 Jawans. We set out, and we occupy these places which are generally occupied by terrorists, and sometimes we grow beard. We don't bathe for about 6 to 8 months. Okay, as I said, Ravi or I, we don't smoke, but if we have to get into their shoes, if we have to look like them, then we have to smoke. You're not left with a choice. Okay. Now, sir, why do you have to stay without bathing for 6 to 8 months? It is only then that I will smell like him. Otherwise, in such a clean atmosphere like Jammu and Kashmir, where there is no pollution at all, my fair and lovely can be smelled miles. So if he shouldn't smell my fair and lovely, if he shouldn't smell my perfume, then I got to go into this mode. And all of this happens. So when we go into small team operations, we wait for them, say, in groups of five. Five, okay? The militants or the terrorists can be coming in groups of 2. They can be coming in groups of 10. That is the maximum. These days, they don't come in 10. They come in 2 or 3, okay? And then we operate and we hit them. These are our operations. Now, there's a very important thing which I've listed here, tracking radio sets. It's a very interesting phenomenon, you know. It's like listening into what somebody is speaking. So we have a radio set, and when we have too much of time at our disposal, we start turning and tuning into frequencies with the hope that we will track or we will tune into the terrorist frequency at some point of time and we can understand what they're planning next. We do this all the time and we have got a lot of success. Okay, because when we collect intelligence from a source, we corroborate it or we confirm it from many places. So a source tells me that we are in a place. Okay, let me give you an example. In one of the operations, Ravi, this we carried out in Achabal. I'm sure you know the area. So we knew that there was movement, and we had input that a group of 2 terrorists, FTs are foreign terrorists, they had come to a particular place and a particular house. Now we didn't have any way to confirm that information. We wanted to confirm it. And we knew that there was, a radiation which was being emitted from that particular house, right? And we already had their numbers, so we were tracking them continuously. Now we wanted to know that they were in one particular house. How do you do it? Nobody's going to come and tell you at that point of time. I'm talking about 2 o'clock midnight. When we get this intelligence, they've come. You better come. You'll get them. Okay. So what we had to do is we had to send a team of 2 people with a mobile to go and emit radio waves from the house which is closer to that house. Now, look, it's a lot of risk. Okay, you don't want to lose men. The first slide, second slide, myths in the army. I said you will surely take a bullet. I don't want to take a bullet. Okay, I want to live another day so that I can make him martyr for his country. Right. So now these 2 boys go. Their mobile number is taken and it is given to the police control room. And the place where he will just make a call, he will not speak anything and he will shut it. The moment he makes a call, the police control room marks it and it tells us where it is coming from. So we get the address, we corroborate it, we know that the first one which we know is from the terrorist has come from this house, the second one has come from this house, so this guy's presence is confirmed. Okay, and then we carry out the operation and we hit them. Ravi, we did this and we hit them in flat 15 minutes. I'm telling this to Ravi because he knows the area and we've almost served in the same place without knowing that each other was serving there. Okay, can I have the next slide, please? Okay, now, yeah, I was talking to you about this handling sources. How do you cultivate a source? It's very, very, very difficult to cultivate a source. Okay, because the moment you cultivate a source, that person, he or she, is emotionally attached to you. Okay? You've got to be the Abhimanyu who knows to go into the Chakravyuh and come out of it also. So, this cultivating a source is a very difficult job. You throw how much of money you want to throw, you will not be able to cultivate. You give all the facilities which are required, you may not be able to cultivate. You can think of all the things in the world, you might not be able to cultivate. Okay, you might not be able to cultivate. one little incident, the source will come and tell you, stop, help me out. This is what is happening. So this cultivating a source to gather intelligence is one of the biggest tasks today. Okay. And then we execute operations on intelligence. I have a video to show you as to how we how we execute operations, and it is a live video. It is an operation which has been conducted. It is not a movie shot. Okay. And after that, we have the rest of the points like handling the media and the police. One of the biggest tasks for us. Even the operation is easy. Sitting 24, 48, 72 hours doesn't matter to us. But handling the media, handling the police, especially when the media wants to take a shot, when bullets are being fired, they want it in the background. We have this habit of taking selfies today. There is an accident which has happened, and you want the accident in the background and you take a selfie. That's exactly how the media behaves. Okay? And there are these police guys, let me put it very blatantly, they make a run the moment the terrorist is hit, even before we can confirm whether the terrorist is alive or dead, so that he can take the money which the terrorist is carrying. Okay, it's big money. I'm not going to tell you how much they carry. So this happens. And another big problem, HR activists. Oh, how can you hit the terrorist? How can you kill a person? Okay. So to these HR activists, terrorists are very important vis-a-vis the lives of the soldiers who have martyred. Okay. This is the reality, and you got to face reality. So after we conduct an operation, the next operation starts where we take clearances from people, the Gaon Buddha, as in the village headman, the panchayat, the local police station, okay, the magistrate. There is no collateral, all okay. We have to take it in writing. And even after that, you're not sure, because somebody at some point of time in life is going to file a case, and you might have to be running to Jammu and Kashmir every day your hearing is called for. These are the circumstances under which the armed forces operate. Okay, mob control. It is not very easy. When an operation is conducted and they know that a particular person who is a freedom fighter according to them has been hit, they are not going to allow you to pull out of that place. When they don't allow you to pull out of that place, how do they stop you? They will start pelting stones at you. Okay, it's a very precarious situation, because unfortunately we have a soldier who's been wounded. I have to evacuate him, and I am not going to be able to evacuate him because the crowd is not going to allow me to do it. Okay, and once someone like Major Gogoi, puts a man on the jeep and evacuates a person and pulls his column out, then he faces, trial for the rest of his life. This is what happens. So these are all the problems which the armed forces face. Handling IS situation. IS is internal security. I tell you how it works out. When something like this happens, and when the armed forces go to a particular place, we know when there is an azan call, when there is a call for prayers in the mosque. Okay, there are specific timings. I'm sure some of you who know about it would agree to me. Okay, at a time when you know that there cannot be an azan call, the mosque will open up. And when they open up in this manner, the mob comes together and stops us from carrying out operations. When they stop us from carrying out operations, they let the terrorists go away. This is one, again, very big problem which the armed forces face in counter-terrorist operations. Okay, CASEVAC, I've already spoken about it, casualty evacuation. It is just not possible if the crowd is going to stop you. Surveillance, I spoke to you about. After we have conducted an operation in a particular place, the place is still kept under surveillance. You know why? Because something has happened there. Now that has become the safest place, because nobody is going to come back. I mean, the armed forces is not going to come back there again. It is hiding right under the lion's nose. So it's something like that. So that place has to be kept under surveillance. Now, is the operation over? Okay, we've hit the terrorists. We've handed over the bodies. Okay, we finished all the clearance procedures. Now, is the operation over? No, it is not over. We have to get back to the company operating base, or we have to get back to our place. You never know whether we are going to get back or whether somebody is sitting to ambush us. Okay. Now, so you have a set of procedures to follow when you get back, and after you go back to your normal patrolling, ambush, long-range patrols, surveillance, monitoring radio sets, cultivation of source again. So it is a process which goes on and on and on. Right? Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah, Fatima, can we have the next video? This is an operation. Please watch it, and I shall explain it to you after you watch.
So is my screen visible, sir?
Now, yes. Okay, Fatima, just represent the group. Can you see this guy moving?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this guy is a terrorist, okay? It has been shot from a drone. Here is the guy, okay? You can see my arrow. Yeah, okay, Fatima, just pause. Yeah, the guy in the center of the screen is the terrorist. Okay, the guy who's in the center of the screen is the terrorist, and the guys who are onto the periphery, Fatima, just point outside. Yeah, they are the security forces. Okay, they are the armed forces, and it has been shot from a quadcopter. You can see the way he has moved, and he has been lying there the whole morning. You know why he came out? He came out because a quadcopter was used, and he thought something would be dropped on top of him. So he was firing at the quadcopter, and since that did not work out, he started moving to a particular place. Fatima, you can play. Yeah, Fatima, pause. Yeah, please point out to the soldiers. Yeah, this is, yes, absolutely. She has rightly pointed out soldiers onto the left hand side and the right hand side. Okay, this is called an inner cordon. There is a similar thing which is there in the outside periphery also, and that is called an outer cordon. Okay, so the outer cordon covers the gaps in the inner cordon, or the inner cordon covers the gaps of the outer cordon. That's how they work. Okay, and once the quadcopter goes up in air, we rearrange and we tighten the noose. So that's how you've seen this guy. You can play it, Fatima. Yeah, that's it.
So the video got over.
So yeah, okay, fine. Can I have the slide, please? Okay, so that is how a terrorist is struck. Okay, giving an honest opinion. How many of you, I mean, at the end of this presentation, we're waiting for this guy to be hit? How many thought it was getting a bit too long? Do let me know, because it is just 2.5 minutes or 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Okay, and these guys stay there for hours together. Hours together, believe me. Okay. Next, special forces. It's another place to be in if you choose to be in. What happens in the special forces? Who are special forces? Commandos, special forces. You heard the terms already. There is a 12-week conversion course which happens when you have to join the special forces. I am talking about National Security Guards, from where I hail from. 12 weeks is the time for a conversion course after I come from my battalion. And what happens in these 12 weeks? It is mental, physical robustness. It is not physical at all. It is mental. And you are tried and you are broken every day for the 12 weeks. It is like someone has let loose all the hell on you. And there is no mercy. Okay. What else do they train the special forces in? Reflex training, firing, speed and accuracy. The time which I have to make a decision to call it life or death is just about 3 seconds. A guy playing basketball gets more time in the day. We get lesser time than that. I have to decipher within these 3 seconds who's the terrorist, who's the hostage. I have to pick my weapon up, I have to aim onto his head, and I have to pull the trigger twice to hit him effectively on the head. And for this entire procedure, in a pitch dark night, I've just got 3 seconds. So you need to understand the kind of a speed and accuracy which is required. The guys in special forces have to train day in and day out to get that kind of an accuracy. So how do you get that accuracy? When you lift up your weapon, you really cannot go inside, look for the sight, because you can't see the sight. So it is called muzzle memory. It is where your weapon comes up, and the feel of the weapon, you know that the weapon is aligned to the terrorist or not. That kind of a speed is required. Okay. And after all this, after you have been put through the rigmarole for 12 weeks, a merit list is put up there, and depending on your psyche, you are sent into either the 51 Special Action Group, 52, the Support Weapons Squadron, or the Training Center. These are the places where you can go. This is before the hubs had come. Now, they send you to the hubs. Chennai hub, Hyderabad hub, Kolkata, or Mumbai. Okay, based on certain prerequisites which are already there. And what are the special forces trained in? The National Security Guards is trained for all kinds of interventions. Be it a house, be it a hut, be it a building, be it a bus, be it an aircraft, be it a car. You name a place, and these guys can go into that. Okay, and the biggest problem is they don't knock before they enter. They just bang. Now, after they are put through the rigmarole for 12 weeks, after they go into say 51 or 52, they have a specialist training in 51 Special Action Group and 52 Special Action Group for 2 months, 2 to 3 months, which makes it training for 6 months. Okay, and why is so much training? Already he's been trained in the academy, he's been trained in the unit, he's gone through so many operations, and then you put him through training in the Special Action Group also, making it to 6 months. Why 6 months? 180 days. It's because the OODA loop. OODA is a term where you have to make decisions within split seconds. It is observe, orient, analyze, decide, and act. I say again, it is observe your surrounding, orient to the surrounding which has been presented to you where you are in, analyze what's going on, decide on your course of action, and act. Act is basically squeezing the trigger, to make a call between life and death. For this entire thing where life is at stake, every soldier who joins the special forces gets 3 seconds. Okay, that's how difficult it is. Why? Because hostage rescue is involved. Now, what is the aim of these special action groups? It is not to kill the militant or the terrorist. Firstly, that is a bonus to the special forces. It is to get all the hostages secured alive. That is the aim. So to do this, you got to go through the rigmarole. Okay, and we train for say 1,000 contingencies, and every time we go into an operation, we are posed with 1,001st. And the biggest example is 2611 Ops. Since you've been hearing about it since yesterday, nobody expected that the special forces would have to handle a target area which has got close to 300 rooms in one target area, 400 rooms in another target area, without knowing how many hostages were taken, without knowing how many terrorists were there, without knowing what kind of equipment profile they were having. Nothing was known. And to add on to the misery which we were facing, we didn't have anything called as spotter scopes. We didn't have thermal imagers. We didn't have good communication devices. It was basically like a blind man searching for a black cat in a dark room. And believe you me, every time we go into an operation, it is very different from all the contingencies which we faced, which we practiced for, sorry. Okay, they come up with something new every time. They surprise us every time, but fortunately, the soldiers of this country are so good, they're so elite that they surprise the enemy back by annihilating them every time. This is where, the concept of leading your men into battle comes. Next slide, please. Yes, this is again a very important slide. The terror mongers. Okay. Everybody who was presenting, they were using a particular term to talk about these terrorists. Master planning. What was it? Fatima, you also used a term. You said something. I had written it somewhere.
Masterminds.
Masterminds. Yeah. This is another very good thing, We call them masterminds as though they're champions in chess and they're doing a great thing. Or we say our soldiers and the terrorists have been killed, So this is how the media plays on your minds. They're not masterminds. They're terror mongers. And that's also a pretty decent term which I'm using to an audience like this. Okay. Otherwise, we have the choicest of names for them. Yeah. So who are these terror mongers which we're still on the lookout for? Tawahur Hussain Rana, Zakiur Rahman Lakwi, okay, Maulana Masood Asar, Dawood Ibrahim. That's why I said, yeah, mastermind is already there on the slide. I put it there, okay. And Why is this guy's name written in red? Ayman Mohammed Rabi Al Zawahir. Anyone? Anyone who knows who this guy is? Yeah. Acha, Nitin, it was you. Who is this?
Ayman al-Zawahiri. If it now sounds something like they know.
Yeah. Anyone who knows? Okay, I shall wait for the question answer session. If somebody can tell me who it is.
No, Afghanistan.
Osama for the Al Qaeda.
Absolute good, Basu. I thought as much it would come from you. Okay, he's the next Al Qaeda chief. Okay. Wasim Ahmed, Mohammad Ashraf Khan, Saifullah, and Javed Matu, who's also called Musa. He's from Al Badr. Ravi, can you just confirm one thing to me? I thought Dr. Saifullah was hit. They had hit him. Ravi, you're there?
Is there, sir?
Ravi?
I'm not very sure whether he's part of the new generation PhD terrorists. I'm not very sure about his name.
No, because one Saifullah, Dr. Saifullah was hit
Saifullah.
yeah.
Okay. I'll
The
cover
same
that,
mistake.
as part of it, because where I operated, we had a couple of them, which I will throw light upon.
Okay. Okay. So these are the terror mongers. Yeah. Can I have the next slide, please? This is one very important thing for all you cadets, Endow thy will with such power, with every turn of fate so it be, that God himself asks of you, what is it that pleaseth thee? Fatima, can you tell it in Urdu for us?
Sir?
Could you say what this is in Urdu? You don't know?
Sir, no, sir. I'm not fluent in Urdu.
Okay. I'll say it in Urdu. If you heard it somewhere, just raise your hand, Fatima, okay? Or anybody else who's in. खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा तुमसे खुद पूछे पता तेरी रजा क्या है. Anybody who's heard it? Basu?
I think I've seen it in your WhatsApp about or something.
Okay. So this means, push yourself to such limits of professionalism that you are unstoppable. Okay. Become great citizens of this country. The next one, please. I come to the end of the presentation. I take this opportunity to, thank Wing Commander Nitin for having given me a chance to interact with cadets. I'm open to questions. Thank you so much. God bless. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for your remarkable words.
All right, sir, I'll open a question and answer session because of what we spoke. This is just to give an idea of to the cadets as to when I started speaking, I stopped at a particular time of 1980s when the terror attacks actually began in India. One of the first terror attacks was not actually in mainland India. I had put up a list or a Wikipedia link, and if you have read it, the first terror attack was in Tripura, where 500 Bengalis were butchered, and till date there has been no justice for them. But thereafter, terror attacks started happening. Pakistani ISI actually took baby steps. They tried and carried out a trial run and a trial terrorist operation before a major one. They didn't straight away jump into things. Now, I would less like Bharat sir to touch upon what does he know is the amount of training that is being given to terrorists who are coming to India, and compared to the Kargil intervention that Pakistan did, how much does carrying out 10 such terror attacks as big as Pulwama actually cost them. The cost ratio for Pakistan to do it. This is one. Secondly, when he is going to tell you about how long those people train, okay, and how those people are chosen, I would also like Bharat sir to lightly touch upon as to what is the actual thing that motivates these boys who are coming.
Yeah, okay. The questions which has been posed by Wing Commander Nitin, I hope it's clear to everyone. Firstly, I'll tell you the kind of a training which they go through to carry out such attacks. Uh, I'll tell you two circumstances. Okay. In one circumstance, he gets just about 5 to 10 rounds to fire. Okay. However, he's indoctrinated for a few months before he's sent into the subcontinent. This is one part. Okay. But to carry out an attack such as Pulwama, or to carry out an attack such as the 2611, I shall briefly touch upon 2611. These guys who came, the 10 who came for carrying out the final attacks of 2611 were shortlisted from around 20,000 people. 20,000 to 10. That was the ratio. And we in the special forces, Ravi must have gone through a lot more training because the Garuds were new. We trained for 6 months. Okay. And 6 months itself was hell, 180 days. But these guys who came for 2611, they were trained for 1 year. They were some of the best fighters whom we would have encountered. Okay. And this I am saying the kind of tactics which they followed when they were engaging the special forces. Okay. So training for 1 year, bringing down from 20,000 to 10, one can well imagine. Okay. Now, what kind of a training we go through and how we have operated, I'm sure everybody has read about or known about Ob Geronimo. I'm sure you would have gone through Ob Geronimo. Okay, this was when the US hit Osama bin Laden. The US Special Forces trained on the same kind of a target area for 6 months. Okay. They came in two Chinooks. One was hovering in the air, one that landed. About 40 of them, that is two teams as we call it in energy, two teams went inside. They hit Osama bin Laden, which had about say 3 floors and about 7 to 10 rooms in all. And they came out in 38 minutes. They lost a chopper and they went back. One statistics. The same with 2611 operations. No idea. Nobody ever anticipated that there would be 300 or 400 rooms to clear. Not only the rooms, there were the corridors, there were the washrooms, there were the service elevator, there was the guest elevator, there were the AC ducts, and there were the generator sheds, there were the restaurants, the party halls, you name it, and it was there. And all of it had to be calculated by again the same 40 people, not knowing how many hostages were there. And without any knowledge, it took us 42 hours. So that is a kind of a training. You can make the difference for yourself. And why did it take 42 hours? When somebody asked me, and a lot of people have asked me, the only answer which we give them is, I'll give you a master key. Just go to Trident Oproya or Taj. Try opening each and every room once, walking in, walking out, and please come back and tell us how much time you took. And under fire, was it commensurate or not? Then that person won't come back. He understands. So this is the comparison. Firstly, secondly, it is very easy for the neighboring country to push terrorists because it doesn't hit his economy as much as it would hit if he were to have a full-scale war. It's not that he didn't try it. He tried it 4 times. He tried it 4 times. He failed miserably. So what is the best way to hit? Is to push in these people where it does not hit his economy. Okay. Ravi, would you like to add something more?
Am I audible now, sir? The current trend world over when it comes to using non-state actors is a phenomenon called hybrid warfare. Hybrid warfare blurs the lines between conventional war and peace. In other words, you push in people who you can disown and create mayhem in the host country. It's as simple as that. And today people are realizing that this is a low-cost leverage. When I say a low-cost leverage, low investment, high returns. Take, for example, the point that Col Bharat was talking to you people about. The 26/11 operations hit the backbone of the Indian economy, or at least was intended to do that. With what? With just 4-5 people trained over a period of 1 year. Which country would not use this as an example to leverage on destroying another nation's economy? Well, what they never realized is that the versatility of our country is so good that your ability to bounce back, it's called the resilience to bounce back, existed. And that's thanks to people like Col Bharat and cadets like you who have confidence in the entire secular fabric of this country. Now, I know I've spoken in rhetoric. I've not been able to talk to you in terms of tactical execution of what really happens. I will share. So the second part that I want to bring to you is Dr. Saifullah. Now it rings a bell. Dr. Saifullah, he was not a real doctor. He has been done and dusted. He was a medical lab assistant. But there, because of how education is, and if someone can claim to be a quack, can claim to be a doctor by advising people, he becomes a doctor. He has a mass following. Burhan Wani, I'm sure the name rings a bell in everybody's mind here. Does it? He was a poster boy. He was a poster boy who was done down to ash without firing a single bullet. Yes. What many of you don't know, he was just a front because he was what you would call a social media influencer. He was one of them that you could empathize with. Tomorrow, when you look at Hrithik Roshan playing the role of let's say, an officer or an army officer, you tend to immediately empathize with him. So the Kashmiris, would easily empathize. Began to easily empathize. They've got the wrong examples. There is another gentleman. There's an SP by name Tahir, who has done phenomenal operations in Kashmir. I've had the pleasure of working with him, and we worked in covert in the sense in terms of, we would disguise ourselves and walk around. Coming back to Dr. Saifullah belonged to the same creed of a terrorist that came around the time of Burhan Wani. And along with him, there was another Wani who was done. He was a PhD. Most of them, they do not have opportunities for employment, which brings together or brings to fore another important factor: employment. Employment, pseudo-heroism. When you want people to follow you, everybody likes Facebook likes, everybody likes Instagram followers. What happened is when you have a mass appeal of a different kind, it appeals to this generation. And what they started off with is they started off playing in this. You ask him to recite one hadith from the Quran, he could not. But he had ideologies that would go past normal rationalization. I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. But I've operated with all sects walking with me through operations, through bullets. The fact is, in your capacity, you've got to understand the different flavors that terrorism takes. And you should have the maturity to look through and say that, okay, this is a threat to the country and a secular country. And they would do anything to break this particular secular fabric of yours. Right? So you have many more. You have another maths teacher. I'm forgetting his name. He was a very good maths teacher. He was preparing people to get into the IITs. He took to the gun. He didn't last for more than a month. The shelf life of a terrorist, if he's a localite, is about 1 year. Then there's a concept of mercenaries. I'm not very sure. Pakistan has given people a very easy way out. They went to their jails because their jails were being overflooded, and they told people serving life sentences, listen, and death sentences too. Here's an option. Train Go into India and there's Jannat waiting for you. The misconception of Jannat. All right? Now, if this offer were made to anybody serving a life sentence, hey, I'm asking you, it's a question of empathy here. Would you take it? 16 years in prison or instant freedom? Everybody wants instant karma. But instant karma comes at a price. And many people do not realize that the price of instant karma often is the shelf life of a terrorist, which is hardly a few months. Right? Now, I could add more, but of course, this is just because he asked me a question. Nitin, you were trying to say something? Nitin? Colonel Bharat?
Yes, I'm here.
So would you allow me to add, my experience as far as extremism and terrorism is concerned, very quickly.
It's all yours, Ravi.
Thank you so very much. All right. Now, at the cost of reiteration, I see a couple of questions that are coming up in the
One second. I would, Ravi, just 1 second. Just to simplify, Ravi, first of all, there is a light behind you. If you can please put it off. There is a tube light behind you. And all right, cadets, I would like to just clarify one thing. This is to make you understand something very important. When Ravi was talking about Burhan Wani, he spoke about another officer who was with him. The funny thing was that policeman lost his life 1 week after Burhan Wani or 1 week before Burhan Wani. Nobody gave a damn about him. But when Burhan Wani died, there were massive protests in the valley. Now, what I want to try and bring to your attention, what is very important for you to understand out of what both these people have just told you, is that each one of you is a warrior to me. Do not go to the other extreme. Do not go to the other extreme of trying to say, that fellow is bad, you are a terrorist, this is bad. Nah. Try and you get any forward that is religious, divisive in nature, do not forward it. Dig deep, and whoever has posted it, put a clarification in that group. Go into facts, and you will see 90% of the messages are blatant lies. To where this whole thing came up, the crux of the matter, what is motivating these guys? The basic thing is, these people are themselves. Now, they are motivated or they are pumped in with hatred, ideological, hardcore beliefs, which become the only core of their life. This is one aspect. Or you catch a 17 or 18-year-old boy, you brainwash him, fool him into believing that he will become, end of this, taking a gun, go shoot everybody. They will not tell him what will happen at the end of it. That's it. There is no heaven after this. Believe that, yes, in the valley, people are so stupid, so crazy. Sir, Bharat sir and Ravi, I would like you to clarify. This is what was the state in 2008, 2005 to 8. When my course mate or my juniors were in the valley roaming around, totally like, see, one more thing, what Bharat sir said, that people don't have a bath there. Yes, it is a fact. I have done various number of Casevacs. People who are sick in the valley, they get free helicopter ride from wherever village there are no roads to where hospitals is. I have carried women who are having delivery problems, old women who are sick, umpteen number of times. From October to March, entire winter, they don't have a bath. When I had gone in mid of December, there was a place called Gurez. Check in the map. You may not get it also on the Google. I had landed up in Gurez, and that lady came into the helicopter, and in a Chetak aircraft, which is specialized for Casevac, there are no windows. Guys, I almost died. She had not had a bath in, I don't know, a century. And man, there is a small little hole there. Okay, and I was putting my nose there and trying to breathe because it was stinking. And these two people who are there in front of you, they also have not had baths like that, and they must have stank like that. I'm putting it as a joke, but those people don't have baths. And because they stay in the same place, they get used to that smell. And if somebody comes, he will smell very different. So that is what they were telling. But the point, sorry, I got completely distracted here. But the basic thing is that these people who had melted into the Kashmiri Valley like normal civilians. They, people and ladies, they bring children. Please touch your gun on my child. My child will become well. They are made, men take their children and leave them with a terrorist. You be with him for whatever months he is, you will reach paradise. They let their girls marry the terrorist for 6 months so that you will also blindly their has been over a period of time completely driven out of their senses. So this is just thing. The point what I was trying to bring out: motivation, brainwashing, money, false images, and public media. That is extensive repeated publicity through media is how a terrorist is motivated. They spend nothing, pennies. They spend a pittance on actually developing these mercenaries. Okay, now Ravi, sorry, I took too long. Too many repetitions. Yeah, let's go on to the next question. Anybody having any questions? Shoot.
I see a couple of questions here, Nitin. I'll try and see
please.
if I can answer one or two. The first question that comes up is, sir, I've heard many a time in news about combing operations. So can you elaborate on that? Sir, would you want to?
Go ahead, Ravi.
All right. See, combing operations don't go by, what do you mean by a comb? You just go through the entire place. That means you sweep the entire place. Don't look at comb. There's nothing called a combing operation per se. There's something called coordinate search and destroy operations. These two come into the gambit of combing operations. What happens is, it's like, let's say all of you are playing, somebody's lost a earring. A classmate of yours has lost a earring in the playfield. What is the best logical way to actually look for it? You divide yourself into one straight line, you sweep the area. Then another team sweeps an area from the other side. Something very, very similar is carried out in the valley when you talk in terms of coordinate search operations, the search and destroy operations. So now I'll inflate the entire situation into what happens into the valley. Into the valley between two mountains, it could take you 1.5 days for you to go from one mountain to the other. The distance, the aerial distance being just about 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers or even 3 sometimes. It all depends upon the terrain. So what ideally happens here is you divide yourself into teams and you start sweeping the area. It's not as easy as how you sweep a playground because the terrain is undulated. When I say undulated, there are draws, there are hills, there are falls. So, and to add it all, there are terrorists hiding, right? So this is what you mean by a combing operation. Now, a combing operation in a city setting becomes exactly like what Col Bharat spoke. He was involved in 2611. Searching 400 rooms is no joke. 400 rooms with 3 compartments inside each room. It's not easy to enter because there's something called the fatal funnel. What do I mean by the fatal funnel? That means the danger that the soldier faces when Col Bharat is leading a team into a particular room, the danger that he faces is 3 times more than the person inside. It's a mathematical modeling that does actually very clearly, because the minute he steps into the fatal funnel, he's facing 3 times more the danger. Because remember, in insurgency or terrorism, ladies and gentlemen, the initiative is never with the armed force. The initiative is always with the terrorist. Why so? Because he amalgamates, he melts into you. Like, let's say if I am a terrorist and I've entered this particular webinar, how would you realize who I am if I'm dressed in civil clothes? I could just be another, maybe, I mean, of course, for my age, I need to be, let's say, an ANO or somebody else who's just coming to attend. So remember, the initiative is with me. And the Indian Armed Forces has the record of preserving civilian life. We are not like the Israelis where you can go guns blazing, right? You You do have punctuations. You do have hyphenations. And they are our own people. We are out there to protect them too. That is something that is offset by ideology. What happens is, let me explain terrorism in a very, very simple manner to you. Let's say, how many of us are attending this particular meeting here today? About 90 odd. We decide to form a new religion. Let's call it Nitinism. All right. All of us come into this particular class and say, okay, we like the way Nitin speaks. Therefore, let's start following him. We're all in one particular class. Now, first we all congregate. Why? Because we believe in what he says, or we are interested in what he says, or we've heard that he is, let's say, trying to see. What I'm trying to drive at is terrorism is a social problem. You've got to understand the problem, not with a military solution. It has to have political solutions. Military, on the other hand, is just one of the many tools of governance that any government can use to control killing or massacre, or for that matter, geographical compromise of their own territory. Now, coming back to this particular class, all of us come together. Now, let's say Col Bharat and me are also students in Nitin's class. Now, Col Bharat has a following. I start following him. Somebody else, let's say, who's asking this question? Rahul Mittal is another. Now, two people have followings. So, you have small groups that build up. Second is economics, the funding of, these groups. They say, okay, let's collect money. And then they see the other group is collecting money through other means. What are they doing? They're threatening people and collecting money. Why should we be doing it? Second, we are doing something for them. We are trying to protect these people. They need to pay us. So, these are dynamics in a small society, in a micro society that start developing. The third is sociology, or the social structures. When I say social structures, there are informal and formal hierarchies that come in. Nitin is our leader. Now, who comes in as number two? Fatima. All right, Fatima says, okay, I am the self-proclaimed number two. Now, Padmanabhan may not perhaps, agree with him. Or let's say somebody else, Vasu will say, now there's friction, there's conflict. Add to this the availability of a gun culture. Now, right now, you must have seen, all of you have seen, Gundaism or rowdyism in school, colleges, etc. Just inflate that with the gun culture. Swami Rajneesh did this in the United States. He nearly started a terrorist organization there with his following. All right, please remember. So it is not religion alone that defines terrorism. It's ideology. You can understand when societies feel threatened, friction is bound to be an outcome. When friction takes a violent turn, you have wars and you have hybrid conflict. Right? So you need to have the maturity to break all this down into these particular formats and not perhaps be carried away by what you normally read through social media, which of course, there's something called psychological warfare. If I can play your mind, right? I'm sure all of you have heard of it. Okay, what does education do? Education is supposed to give us a lateral understanding of what exists. But today, I'm going through all this because yes, people have defined terrorism in different hues and colors and formats. All right. Everyone in this room perhaps has understood or has got some kind of a comprehensive understanding of what terrorism is all about. But what we don't perhaps have an understanding is that each one of us have a role to play in mitigating terror in the larger perspective that is playing out today. Today, human beings, it's a polarized society that we live in. Polarized society is catalyzed by what? It's catalyzed by social media. There's a big difference between intelligence, information, and stupidity. And stupidity comes on this. It's very easy, extremely easy for me to get to hate another person. Hate is a very strong emotion. Love, on the other hand, or compassion, on the other hand, is a slow emotion that grows. Right? It's like, let's say, the Parthenium. All of you know what Parthenium is? Congress grass. Right? It's a weed. Right? It's like Parthenium and an oak tree. An oak tree takes years. Compassion is like that. It takes time. Right? Parthenium can kill, can destroy, can completely offset the surroundings that you actually grow in. I'm just giving you examples because, it's difficult for me to speak in terms of, just give me a minute. Sir, can I just take over? I'll just open my door, please. I'm sorry about this.
Okay, right now, is everybody able to see a video of mine? Are you able to hear me? Somebody give me a thumbs up, please.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now they were talking to you about, Bharat sir was talking to you about opening room operations. Now, please see, I come out into the corridor. You can see my eyes are shining here. Okay. What a commando does is, this is a dark corridor. You can see there is a little bit of light there. Imagine this light is also not going to be there. I'm going to shut this door. Okay. Now you can see I'm coming here. It is dark. If I just go into a room, bam, I'm dead meat. A terrorist is hiding here. He just shoots me straight through my neck. And I fall down. Somebody comes to try and pull me out. He is shot. Now, terrorists hide in houses in which they are like, this is a false wall. There's a card. Sorry, I'll just shift the camera. Just give me a minute. The camera, just give me a minute. So, oh no, I don't know how to shift the camera. So what I say
Sir,
is,
on the top, sir.
yeah, you see this wall? This will be a false wall. It will be made of cardboard, and there will be a small hole here where my hand is. So when I come in through this wall like this, the wall is behind me here. He is sitting, the terrorist is hiding behind in this wall with a small hole here. And this gun is here. He shoots me in my back. I'm searching in this room with a weapon like this. Okay. I'm looking in the room like this. He shot me from the back. All of you understood? Like this, when they were trying to look into rooms, they had to do search and operation of more than 500 rooms. Rooms, generator rooms, cookhouse, under the table, over the table. Anything can be used by these terrorists. But Taj is still a safe place. In the villages of J&K, it is absolute bloody madness. The kitchen, the shit pots, you have got something called the septic tanks. Everything is used or turned into, everything is used into a hideout for a militant to shoot. Now, what was Ravi trying to tell you in short for the last question is that I lost track of it. I just tried to cover what Bharat sir was telling. So, sir, can somebody put me back on track? What Ravi was talking about, so that it can go on. If he's come back, then he can take over.
I was trying to break down terrorism.
Yeah.
Using an analogy.
The only thing is to try and keep it very simple. Let us talk in layman languages. What is this? Let's keep it simple. What is happening? Pakistan cannot attack us and defeat us in a conventional war. Pakistan's entire power, 80% of the economy is basically owned by the army. Their shopping malls, industries, textile mills, everything is actually owned by some part of the army. Somebody may be running it. Like today you have Tata Corporation, which actually has Vistara Airlines. You may not know it. In Pakistan, 90% of the economy was actually owned by the army. This I'm talking till about 2000. So they don't want to relinquish power. Their only agenda is till 2000, till as of 2014, America was solely dependent on Pakistan to carry out operations in Afghanistan. That dependency no longer exists. Now, their only purpose and aim for existence is India. But the biggest thing stuck in Pakistani army's mind is to defeat India. So now they have graduated from attacking India from conventional to semi-conventional war in Siachen takeover and Kargil. After Kargil defeat, they have completely modified themselves into two fronts. Attacking India by information warfare, divisiveness, and trying to cultivate people within India. Homegrown terror that they said, isn't it? Cultivate people within India to attack India. Their sole goal is that. attack idea is there. Now, back to the question. Sorry, my computer relogged, so I have lost the questions. There were a couple of questions which we can now go to.
Okay, the second question is, Sadiq, can you tell us why we're not focusing on creating NSD, a national security doctrine? Whose question is this? It's an excellent question. We all know the answers, but then the fact is that, well, Col Bharat, sir.
We have a national security doctrine.
We do.
We have a national security doctrine. It came into play very late. In fact, it came into being on attacks, but that's under closed doors. It will take time for it to unfold. It's actually a detailed answer which is required to be given for this, which is not possible to cover in this session.
So there are two more interesting questions that I would.
Yeah,
one is, of course, can I answer this, please?
Yeah.
What are the difference in the operations between foreign terrorists and it's a very good question. The local terrorists, if you look at just one trait, the propensity to fight, the foreign terrorist will fight to the last bullet. And even after he is hit, he is a mercenary. Way back, I operated in North Kashmir. My first operations in North Kashmir were in the year 2004. We had foreign terrorists from countries like Algiers, Mozambique. You had them from Afghanistan. You had them from Pakistan, of course, it's a very common area. But from the Sudan, huge characters, very well motivated to fight. And a lot of people who've been displaced after the Afghan war with Russia. Because what Pakistan did is they found another good reason for them to import fighters who will fight for a cause. Nobody has come here to fight for the jihad. Jihad is a misinterpreted terminology. Very clearly misinterpreted and put across. Now, if someone says that, okay, you die, you go straight to heaven, and there are other, let's say, benefits waiting for you in heaven, the point is he's just misleading them, and they all come from extremely poor backgrounds. Extremely poor backgrounds. The person who shot Col Bharat, if you look at, his economic stature, if you look at Ajmal Kasab, if you look at his economic stature, they were all misled. They're all misled into believing that there is something at the end of it waiting for them. Now, extremism in India takes multiple forms. You're asking about foreign terrorists that only addresses one part of the country. Terrorism and extremism in India takes different hues in different parts of the country. You go to Kashmir, the local terrorists there have a different module of operating. They have a lot of local support. All right, they get the support. Remember, people are caught between barrels. All right, and there is Pareto's principle. Anybody has heard of this great philosopher called Pareto? Please remember this if you've not heard of this. Pareto's principle is true for any walk of life. It's the 80-20 principle. 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people. 80% of the tax in any country is paid by 20% of the people. 80% of the problems are created by 20% of the people. This holds good. So in other words, what happens is 20% of the people are actually putting 80% of the people in front of a gun and telling them that this is the behavior manifestation we expect from you. And unfortunately, they don't have a gun. Their voices are subdued into submission. Okay, very, very clearly. Then, of course, there are a lot of other things that feel left-wing extremism in our country. Left-wing extremism has another interesting tale. I've operated in Chhattisgarh. We don't have, the army is not meant to be there. The armed forces is not meant to be there. But of course, we are there. There's a very interesting diaspora there. What happens in the Northeast is you have 50 different tribes with 70 different demands. One village wants an independent country. Can you beat this? One village wants an independent country. Dimasa. I'm just giving you an example. It's just a village of, let's say, 50 or 60, 50 homes. Big. There's no religion here. There's no religion here. Okay. So, people want to assert themselves, stay relevant. Then you come down to the best ever trained terrorist organization, which Tamil Nadu has faced the brunt of, the LTT. Can you beat it? The LTT to date was the best ever trained terrorist organization. And why does one say that? Their training is akin to what commandos go through. One. Second, degrees of motivation. Now, to get somebody to pop in a cyanide capsule is not very easy. The third, it was the only terrorist arm in the world to have its own air wing. Can you beat it that they used aircrafts? I'm forgetting which, to attack, Ceylon, if I'm not mistaken. I'm forgetting whatever it is. But I've seen that. I've gone there and seen for myself how these people are motivated. And fourth, have you seen the submarine that they were building? Can you beat it? It's talking about they don't have the resources, but they do something called reverse engineering, all right? And they create assets, they create chariots, submarines, a terrorist organization with a submarine, okay? So this is the kind or the flavors that terrorism comes out in. And there is no particular textbook definition of how they operate. Today, there's no gun. There's your mind and there's stupidity to manifest, mold, and make believe. Right? Please, sir.
I'm going to quickly add on to what Ravi said. Coming back to your question also, Fatima, difference between FTs and local terrorists. Okay, Ravi's already brought it out. FTs are huge. Okay, they're huge.
Huge.
He can crush my skull under his armpit. Straight. Okay, they stand up and fight. Right? Local terrorists can hide in the population. FTs cannot. Okay, so survival instincts of FTs are very good. Ravi just brought out that they can get hit and they can go. We encountered FTs, we fired at them. His intestine was hanging out. We've seen it. He picked it, he put it back, he ran away. I met him again after 2 years. Okay, that is the fighting capability of a foreign terrorist, firstly. Secondly, Ravi just spoke about Naxalism, Northeast, and JNK. Okay, the way they fight is very, very different. Farmer in the morning, Naxal in the evening. I was talking about Chhattisgarh, Abu Jumad,
Lankan said, go take a hop. Sri Lankans didn't give him anything. He went berserk and started killing people. And then India said, oh, Prabhakaran, this is bad. He said, go to hell. By then, ISI had started supplying him weapons. When India said stop, he went away from India. He took money from ISI. He killed Rajiv Gandhi. And then when Indian peacekeeping force went, he had them on a platter. What Bharat sir was telling is one day we invite him as a guest of honor and we give him a lavish dinner. Next day we put a gun to his head. What did he do? He turned back and beat us. Get it? Sir, I took this opportunity to break in because there are 3 very important points I'd like to make very briefly.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Hello?
Sir,
Yeah,
your
go on.
voice is breaking, sir.
Good. Okay.
I'll take on the question.
Sir, I have one doubt, sir.
1 minute. Hello,
Yep.
hello, hello.
Go on.
Can you hear me, guys? Now.
Sir, no, sir. Your voice is still breaking, sir.
Okay, go on.
Then I'll
Go on,
come
ask
to the
what your
mobile.
doubt is.
Just give me a second.
Sir, please
What's your
explain.
doubt?
There is something very
Please explain us
important
about a sleeper cell, sir.
here. Afterwards,
Sleeper cells. Okay.
Sir.
All right. I belong to Bangalore. Right. I belong to Bangalore. Bangalore's got one of the highest density of sleeper cells. Sleeper cells are those cells that are just not active. They will be activated. They may not have anything in them. They may not have anything at all in them. They may just have the motivation. They may have an objective. And they would just wait for a particular day when they are meant to be activated for a particular mission. Is that clear? There's
I'll take
another
on the
question
other-
that came up. Sorry, sir. Go on.
I'll take on the other questions quickly. You know, there are a lot of questions. Finish your very
Yes, sir.
quickly.
Sir, I'm back.
Yeah.
Can I just say
Yeah.
something, sir?
One second, I think. Yeah. Now, what I would like to bring out very clearly is a common factor between Kashmir, Mizoram, Red Terror, Punjab, Chhattisgarh, Northeast. They brought out the differences. There are different ideologies in working. There's different ideology in everything. But the only common thing is the people who are the main important person who is the guiding force of that operation. It is those people who want power with them. That's it. It is for the benefit and welfare of the few that millions are dying. Separatist forces in J&K, all the children are in United Kingdom, America, living lifestyle of princes, and these guys are using common boys and girls to spread mayhem. One, Mizoram is a small state surrounded by all sides by India or Myanmar. They have a zero economy and they want to become independent. Baba, if you become independent, what will you eat? Garbage. That is what they will eat. That village that Ravi was talking about that wants to get independent, can you just think one village trying to become independent in India, what will they do? The fact remains, it is for the benefit of 2 or 3 individuals that chaos is being created. Bharat sir, sorry, I interrupted from you, handing over back to you.
It is like having visa to go to Kailasha. Okay. Anyways, yeah, with the difference between RAW and IB, RAW collects intelligence from outside, operates outside the country. IB operates inside the country. How do they mesh up? RAW says there are 10 people who are going to carry out an attack in Mumbai. Okay. IB says, look, I don't have any input. IB says, yeah, I'm sorry. There was a drawing which was filed in one of the states of the country, but it went into the file because it was on a continuum. We thought every day we're getting input, so this is one of them. You know. So what I'm saying is, when RAW says something from outside the country, when reported something is going to happen, that is being confirmed or corroborated by the intelligence bureau which operates inside the country. Okay, so this is just a division. Like my responsibilities are from here to here, that is outside the country, and your responsibilities are from or inside India. Okay, that's the difference between RAW and IB. A lot of questions which came up. Okay.
Kautilya's classification of threats. Very good question.
Yeah, please take on, Ravi.
Kautilya's classification of threats is very simple. You have both internal and external threats. You just need to classify internal threats and external threats. And the two addendums are those who support the internal threat and those who support the external threat. All right? For example, now, external threats are, like, for example, the Khalistan movement. All of them funding the Khalistan movement, be it a country or be it individuals or organizations, they come into that particular category. The actors, the people per se who carry out acts, like you must have read in the news in the recent past, people have been, I mean, they're doing a lot of gun running from across into India. Okay, they form part of this particular matrix. Internal threats, I define it for you. Tomorrow, if you're harboring someone who works against the country, he would fall into that particular category. It's a very, very simple classification. Okay, in those days, when there was, Kautilya could actually propagate such a thought, which is long-standing, true, and eternally true. So if you just don't get carried away by what Kautilya said, this is nothing. What he's done is he's broken down logic for you very simply. Okay, very, very simply, he's broken down logic, and it is true. You look at external threats, internal threats. Then people supporting it, they're called the overground workers in the terrorism context. Overground workers are people who secretly give, in the context of Kashmir, they give them a place to stay, they give them food, they give them shelter, and they also lie to the armed forces about their presence. Anybody who falls into this category would be an overground worker. All right, overt or covert support. What is the role of a fighter pilot in eradication of terrorism? Balakot is an example. I don't need to dwell any further. All right, we have very, very few instances where we've used air power against terrorism, other than, of course, in a very major air logistics role. Air logistics is a in our country, long back, fighter aircrafts were used. So why? Go on, Nitin. Nitin.
Sir, it is not audible, sir. Sir, excuse me.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I need to just correct one more thing before I read on to Mizoram. In Mizoram, what had happened was, like yesterday I told you, the militants came, freed the prisoners, and those prisoners let alone a riot. Now there was a garrison of Assam Rifles which was being surrounded, and people were they were able to defend themselves, but they were running out of supplies. When our helicopters tried to go and drop supplies there, the militants started firing at those helicopters. That time, a few fighters came and did a few flight paths, and the outskirts of this, where they were about to go and cause a lot of damage, they dropped one bomb for which 3 or 4 people died. But the funny thing is, as far as the Mizo people, thousands of people died. So that was propaganda. But I would like to bring out one very, very, very different thing, and I would like both of you to corroborate. Please look at Kashmiri militancy. Till about 2015, a lot of civilian casualties were being incurred. Since 2005, there has been a very calculated and very methodical shift. There have been few attacks, but very powerful, very successful attacks, specifically targeting the CRF and other such forces. They are keeping their hands away from tactically much better equipped, trained, and disciplined. They are targeting the police force where they are people with low morals. He has been dismissed from service today. There are clear leaks, information leaks. They are people with low morals, because there is the selection of officers and men is not as stringent as in the army. They are not as good as the army. And they're really corrupt. One more thing I'd like to bring out. One of them, this I would like you people to read. One day, probably when I talk about Pathankot terror attacks, I'll bring out the things. Pathankot terror attacks happened because our border security forces were rotten, corrupt, along with the British to bring drugs. Only time this time, instead of drugs, they came with bombs and bullets to target an FO station. I'm over and out. Ravi,
I can tell you this much, that the Mark, we were raised by the special group, all right? And NSG also has its leanings. Correct me if I'm wrong, sir, because the same gentleman who was involved in raising this, also raising us, I just leave that. Please understand, it's a dedication. There are another question.
Hey, Ravi, a second on, I'll quickly butt in and talk about, somebody was asking, what is role ISI in terrorism? Now, I'll answer, you have answered, I could be wrong, what I told about Naxalism in Chhattisgarh.
I'll answer that.
First. Yeah, you answer that and then you talk about.
Okay, there was another question here is, why are we not breaking the power? Please understand, Naxalism is not classified as terrorism or insurgency as yet in this country. Because at the end of it, if you look at what they're fighting for, it should be explanatory. I mean, it should stand out as an explanation. Even the courts have come out to say that they are all your own people. You cannot indiscriminately kill your own people.